Hey, Bill DeWeese here with Long Change Journey in Palm Harbor, Florida. And someone had recently asked a question about what do you use to sort your tackle and store your tackle. They were having trouble with bags, zippered bags zippers were freezing and such. And I just wanted I kind of responded in a video because it was easier to explain. And so I thought I'd capture this here and leave it as a video on the YouTube. So what I've done over the years, I've been doing this method for about 3 years now, and it turns out to be, to me, one of the most effective ways to maintain tackle in all settings. If I were fishing on my kayak, this would be inside of my kayak crate, or the kayak crate would replace this. I have the wilderness crate, which is very similar in size. And what I have here is what I use on my Maverick skiff. It's a scuppered deck hull, so I'm pretty much always dealing with water on the hull, especially if I'm walking around on a boat or if I have extra people on the boat. We'll see a little bit of water in the back of the boat, so and you got rain and all this kind of stuff. So I'm always dealing with the elements, so I don't really want to mess with a bag. A bag is just asking for trouble. All the bags I had before, you're always constantly having to maintain the zippers. Everything's getting wet. Water seeping through the fabric, everything. Plus, they're kind of expensive to then still have to fuss with all of that. So we're looking at a simple organization crate. I've added handles to it. These are nylon rope handles. These are original, so they've lasted about 3 years. The handles let me carry it, but they're also long enough that I can just flip it open and kick the lid out of the way and access it. So in here I have two Husky organization storage crates from Home Depot. These are under $10. They are excellent. Unlike a Plano, they do not have a lot of heavy duty ribs and structure inside of them, so you really get an optimized space for using them. What you also have is they have an O-ring seal and heavy duty closures, and so I have two of these. One for hard baits. This is my inshore configuration, so this is O-ring sealed. Everything in here stays perfectly dry, and hooks don't rust. And I have one for hard baits, and I also then have one in here that my rope is in the way. I have one in here, and I also have one that I use for hooks. The hooks are going to be, I do run a segment here, and I kept separate rigging hooks from conventional hooks, circle hooks, J hooks, and some jig heads. Again, this allows me to keep each of them. Their packaging, they're not going to get wet during use and getting things in and out of. And if you put one on the end, you can just simply never take both out. You just keep rotating them, and that way this all stays in place. I don't like my leader getting wet. When I've gotten leader wet on the floor of the kayak, it kind of messes up. It's sort of actually almost like it corrodes some of the leader if it gets wet and remains wet on the spool. So I use a roll top bag for this. I'll have a day's supply, or what I think I'm going to be using or targeting that day, of soft plastics, mainly in their factory bags or Ziploc bags. I have a very large yellow, this Walmart camping roll top bag comes in a 3-bag set. So I have another one of these bags that have a big, large stock of the types of soft plastics that I use for every condition. That stays tucked away, but I'm really going to pull out and use what bags I have here. And then for various and sundries, like jig heads, pinch weights, all that, I put them into pill bottles. The pill bottles keeps everything separated, dry, easily organized. All this sits in here, and that lid closes. Now, and when I'm going offshore, what I'll do is I'll take out that one box that has all of the inshore hard baits, and I'll just replace it with a box that has the things that I'm going to be using for offshore. And for offshore bottom fishing, I'm almost always using egg weights and larger jig heads, so I just keep them in a separate tub. Everything remains in there. And so this and this will go in, and out will come some of the inshore stuff. So it's just the same box for everything. It can sit up, a lot of water. It can sit in water. It can sit on a muddy riverbank or the surf, and it's never going to really have a problem with that kind of water getting in and getting ruining your stuff because you don't realize this or that got wet. The bucket is actually important. I mean, right now this is just some stuff that I'll be taking on my next trip, always out on the deck of the boat. But I use this bucket on the boat all the time in conjunction with my tackle. When I'm fishing, it's a great way to get water, kind of my raw wash down. If I need to rinse fish slime or whatever off the boat, I can just scoop it and grab it, and I don't have to bend over constantly, and I'll fill this up. I'll also take shrimp or pilchards and put a few in here if I'm going to walk away from the live well, if I'm fishing with live bait. So the bucket's really handy, but what I do with the bucket in conjunction with the tackle box is every time I use something, a lure, a hook, a rigging hook, anything, when I'm done with it, I put it away, and at the end of the day, it all goes in this bucket. Everything that remains in here, you only get stuff out of this, and you do it quickly, and you don't let any water get in there, so you don't end up with your hooks getting rusted. Because if a little bit of water gets in there, it goes a long way towards rusting your hooks. So whenever I use one of those lures, one of those rigging hooks, anything, it'll get set aside, and at the end of the day, it'll go in here, and then this comes into the kitchen. It will get rinsed with fresh water really, really well. Everything in this bucket will get rinsed really well. Everything will be hung up in the garden window or hung up around the rim of the bucket, all the lures, so that they drip dry, and we want that to be very dry. Then they'll get put back in here and ready for the next trip. But we never put things in and out of here. These stay dry always. And so that's the technique that I use. This whole thing works out to be, you know, like each one of these is under $10. This thing here is probably $4 or $5 at the smaller one at Home Depot. So these work much more effectively for me than Plano boxes. They're about 2 inches thick. They have a lot more space. They fit in here very nicely on the end. You can put more in there, but I like to have the freeform stuff on the side. And so this is how I roll, and I've been doing this for about 3 years now, and I tell you, I want for nothing, and I can't think of what I would do differently. It's been a very effective way to maintain my tackle and get it in and off the boat, and keep it organized and easy to access. I know right where everything is. Hope this video helps. Thank you very much.